we'll talk about today. It's this the number one Achilles heel that we have as a business right now.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
So, we'll talk about the blow-up matrix. It's a major issue. So, going back, I've been through this before. What's the number one most important thing I can do that helps keep deals from blowing up? Pre-frame. Right? It's all about the pre-frame. But what does that mean, though? I tell them what's going to happen before it happens. I wrote this down. This is what I noticed with everyone. Some people here have more deals blown up this year than they have closed. Multiple people do. Literally more deals blown up than they actually have closed. So is that a market problem? No. Is that a lead problem? No. What is it? That's an agent problem. And so what does it come down to? I was trying to really get this to the most. There's two different sides of this coin. The biggest issue comes in, I want you guys to write this down. Low resistance equals massive blow up. What does that mean, you think? The lower resistance that people have in the transaction, the more your blow up rate is. Meaning that if I just tend to agree with everything they're saying, I let them get away with their stories, I let them get away with what they're saying to me, and I don't push back because I have a fear of conflict, what happens?
You're an order taker.
I have more deals blow up. We've had multiple deals blow up with the same buyer 3 or 4 times in a 2-3 month period. Is that a buyer problem? That's my problem because I'm not pre-framing them and setting expectations the right way. Period. Is that a house problem? Do you think every house look at is just that bad a shape? No, because if it was, I would probably have known that before I made the offer on it. Am I correct? Yeah. And so it comes down to how I manage my client's expectations overall. But here's the thing. Low resistance equals massive blow up. Or you can make it simpler. Low resistance equals high blow up. And I want you to kind of grade yourself like, what's my resistance? Am I having any collisions in the process? If not, that's why my blow up rate's so high. This tends to happen a lot on the higher end clients. Why?
They're smart enough.
They're smarter than most people. They're affluent and they're dominant. And so what happens is they tend to have the dominant personality in the transaction. You tend to become the order taker, and all of a sudden they're just beating you up for the entire process. They're running the show all of a sudden, and that's why it blows up and things happen. Okay, we've got to make sure that we're aware of this and we have control of this. Okay, you're the expert, you're the licensed agent, they're the person that transacting it. You guys with me on this? So, most important that part about the pre-frame. What is it? I said it earlier. Set expectations. What would that be like? Hey, here's what's going to happen next. We're going to make this offer, get accepted, right? I go through, I congratulate them, they made a great decision. We're going to have the home inspection, and I'm going to tell them, you get the home inspection, it'll be 60 pages. It'll be a whole lot of stuff that scares you, but the good news is it's not going to be a big deal. We're only going to ask for a few things to get fixed. You know why? We're not buying a brand new house. And here's the deal. If you bought a brand new house, you'd have another 40-page inspection, have a lot of stuff with it too. And so I have to do what? Take control and set expectations of what's going to happen. You guys with me on this? Super important. And what does that mean? I tell them what I need to tell them. I tell them what's going to happen in terms of, I don't want to say chronological order, but here's what I need you to look for, and here's what's going to happen next. Next page of that's what? Manage expectations. What does that mean? I keep it on the tracks. I told that seller guy the other day we had a call, right? He was asking about something else sold. It wasn't a condo hotel. He's saying this and told, man, went back to the same thing. Seen another video, went through all the stuff. And I came at him hard, very hard. He's, oh man, I like you. He was kind of backing up a little bit. I said, no, here's the deal. My job as the expert to you is to do what? Keep it on the tracks. Every time you start going back to what your story is, that your condo is worth more than everybody else's, and that your building's worth more than everyone else's, my job is to keep you back in the reality on the railroad track of reality. And he started laughing. But the reality is, I know when it gets off track. You know when it gets off track, what happens? You get scared. to have a collision with them, and so you let it slide. And then what happens? They'll let the next one slide, next one slide, and all of a sudden the deal blows up because they're too far off the tracks of reality. And what does that mean? They say things that you know isn't necessarily the truth. But you don't want the deal to blow up because you're desperate and you haven't shown up, haven't made the right dials, or your pipeline's not big enough, so you don't really have the collision that you should because you're in a place of desperation or you're not really in prosperity, right? So what happens is you just hope it's going to go through. And then what happens is all the time, that mindset gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and all of a sudden the deal blows up on the back end. Why? Because they all of a sudden became in control. The minute you don't challenge them, when they're off the tracks of reality, is the minute they take control of the transaction. Period. And everyone here has a threshold. So some of you, 300,000. Some of you, 500,000. Some of you, it's $1 million. And once it gets above $1 million, you just become the order taker because you're too scared the deal's going to blow up. You have to have the mindset of, I don't care if it's 100,000, I don't care if it's 2 million, I treat it the same exact way. And that's how I am. You know why? I don't need the money. I'm here for the purpose of what I do. Same thing with don't take it, man. Can you split this deal? We drop commission on the listing side $1,000 and the buy side $1,000? What'd I say? No, it's not about the money. It's about the purpose. And it's about once you get on that track, what happens? You start doing it on every deal. And so it becomes a very addictive part, but it's because I'm all about the purpose. Does that make sense? And you want to have the same mentality with these deals. It's about once this person gets out of line, not in a bad way, but they start talking about things that you know aren't true. Or they start saying things about the deal you know aren't true. Like, oh, that seller is just trying to rip us off. Whatever it is, right? And you say, hey, can I just be totally real with you right now? Yeah. No, I do this every single day. That seller's not trying to rip you off. They're just doing what they think is the best thing, and you're doing what you think is the best thing. So our job is to keep doing what we can control and get that deal to closing table. Is that right? Yes. And it's very important for us to make sure we're doing that. So managing means what? Challenging them when what? When they get off track. Third piece of this pre-frame. I must attack the doubt. What does that mean? Attack the doubt.
This is a good deal.
Yes. You can know when your client, either buy side or listing side, starts to have doubt on the transaction. Oh, and you can have if you're doing it long enough and good enough, you have a good guess of what the next thing's going to be. Right? And so I want to make sure I'm constantly attacking that doubt. Hey, you're probably thinking this, but let me just tell you the reality of the situation is actually X, Y, Z. And I sense that based on what? Their tonality, what they're saying, what they're leading to, their posture, whatever it is in terms of the conversation. It's very, very, very important I make sure I do that. You guys with me on this? And we all have examples in what they are in that piece there. Fourth piece here. I must quit reacting. What does that mean? New people have this happen all the time. You get emotional about something happens, something goes sideways, that inspection comes back, and all of a sudden you're a world saver for your client and you're scared, and all of a sudden what happens when you get scared? Your client gets scared, but they get scared 10 times more than you do because you do this every day and they don't. And it's the biggest purchase of their entire life or the biggest sale of their entire life. They're mirroring what you do times 10. And so you can't react. No matter what happens in that home inspection, no matter what happens to the other agent, you've got to make sure that you don't react. And we have this recently, so you can't react in terms of what it is. You've got to make sure you're controlling the pre-frame. Most of the problems you guys have on the buy side, right, are all pre-frame expectations. All challenges with clients come down to mismanaged clients' expectations. If I can pre-frame them what the expectations are, and I manage what they expect, they're not going to blow up and get mad. Yeah, so here's a perfect example. If you have someone in your own office that does a back out on due diligence and won't tell you why the due diligence is, what does that tell you?
Pre-frame.
They're not. It's all pre-framed. They're not reacting because if I'm on my team with you, I'm going to say, look, here's the reason they're backing out. If it's in due diligence, it doesn't matter what the reason is. Why? Because I want to help my teammate. But more importantly, it means I'm reacting to whatever my client's reacting to. Are you with me on this? I'm not putting my client at disadvantage at that point because they're already getting out the deal and it's during due diligence period. But if I want to share the home inspection with my client, whatever, with my coworker, whatever it is, it means I'm being reactive to their situation versus being the control of the situation. Are you guys with me on this? And if you get something back in terms of, mostly it's home inspection issues or insurance or whatever it is, lending stuff, right? I got to make sure I'm not reacting to whatever it is. Second thing that is what? Is transfer certainty. What does that mean, you think? I must transfer certainty. They're mirroring what I do. Like I said, my energy times 10. Her energy was a panic, world saver, terrible, disgusting energy. I was angry on the phone in 2 seconds just talking to somebody that weak as a human. Disgusting. I'm telling you, that's how I felt about it. Right? Why? Because there was zero certainty in that, and I didn't want to ever get into a deal in a situation like that. Nice lady, disgusting in terms of having certainty as an agent. You guys with me on this? Right? To know-it-all, who's just a world saver, who doesn't know about reality. Drives me crazy in that piece, right? So, what's the whole thing about the transfer of certainty? The first thing here is pain to pleasure. Pain to pleasure. What does that mean? I've got to be able to go back and take them from their pain to their paradise. Meaning, I've got to know what their pain is in the situation. I'm going to use that in the transaction to move them. We talk about this all the time in Warrior. I've taught this in the past. How they move people in sales through Warrior and doing this is this thing called pit to peak. What does that mean? Everything we do in that we talk about is pit to peak. What does that mean, you think? So pit to peak means I always take them down to their pain and then back up to their peak. In terms of emotions, nothing. They're not going to be willing to make difficult decisions unless the universe or the world or God forces them to. It's why your buyers get really hot and then get really cold. Because they're not constantly kept and reminded of what? Their pain. Their pain. They have to be back reminded. Well, here's the problem. Why can't most of you guys do that? You don't know it, and if you do know it, you don't remember it because you didn't put the notes in to CRM or Boomtown or whatever it is. You have to be willing. So I need to make sure I'm very clear on what their pain is. So when they start to get squirrely on me, what I got to do? Hey, take it back. Hey, I understand you don't like the seller. You think the seller's trying to rip us off. But in reality, that's much better than having a new baby living with your mother-in-law. Would you agree? So we can get mad about the seller's emotions, but we really got to worry about the major problem that you have, which you got a baby doing about 8 months. You're not really, but I'm just an example, right? That you're living with your mother-in-law. Just an example, right? This is an example. Make sense? Whatever the pain is, I've got to make sure I'm taking it back to that. Okay, but first I must know it. Second thing is what? Use it. And for me to use it, I have to do what? Log it in my notes when I meet with them. Because what's happening, if you're not, and I've done this before myself, if I'm not certain what their pain is, but I kind of remember what the pain is, what's going to happen? I'm not going to use it because I'm scared it's not the right one. Oh, is that them or the other people? I can't remember, right? Whatever it is. I've done it a bunch of times, which is why it's important to log it into the system overall. Other thing I'm talking about, right, is the promised land. Which is what? Hey, this is how we're going to help you get your new house with your new baby. Right? How happy is Becca going to be when you get to your new house with more space, another bedroom, and you can still have relatives come stay with you, whatever it is, right? You start bringing whatever that thing is and talk about the promised land, which is going to be what life is going to be like in the big picture. You guys with me on that? Third piece here, like I said earlier, I'm adding this in here. This whole piece is energy. Meaning what? I have to constantly be transferring energy to them that what? That what?
Great decision. No big deal.
This is a great decision. You guys are missing this. Hey, no matter what, I just want to make sure you guys know you made an absolute fantastic decision. I was going back looking at the comps after we got this under contract, and do this even crazier than when we got under contract. Another one just sold down the street for $20,000 more. I bet our appraiser is going to come in way above whatever we're under contract for. I have to have these conversations. So if you don't think your people are going home from you scared about what they just made a commitment to, you're delusional, right? You have to make sure you understand, like, look, our own person who worked here was scared about doing it. What were you most scared of? Making the wrong decision, paying too much money for it, market crashes, having all these payments for 30 years, right? It's the same thing that everyone has, that they're making the wrong decision. And so you have to make sure that you go back and you do what? You reassure them that's the right decision. How do I do that? I might get ahead of myself already, but I didn't. How do I do that? I got to tell them. I be very purposeful about how I tell them. Hey, look, just want you guys to know you made the right decision. I'm so blown away at how good a deal we got in this property. I know we paid a little more than we wanted to, but when I went back and looked at the comps afterwards, it's an absolute steal long term. And by the way, it's going to help you be able to build a family in this house, and you're going to have massive equity. Right? And if somebody's a first-time home buyer, what I say, hey, by the way, did you know that first-time home buyers, once they own a house, homeowners are 43 times, they have 43 times the amount of wealth as renters do? Right? You start talking about all these things. That does what? Anchors in. Once you guys write the word anchor in, the right decision. Last one here. Outside influences. What does that mean? You have to make sure you manage the outside influences from them. Which are things like what? Friends, mother-in-law, social media, news. That's what I was looking for too. Right? Whatever it is. Hey, you guys made the absolute right decision. How long have you want to be a homeowner? You probably know that already. You guys want to be homeowners here in Myrtle Beach for the last 5 years. You're finally getting that under contract. What's going to be like when you wake up and you can walk to the beach and you can watch the sunrise every single morning with your husband? Right? The last thing you want to do is, hey, by the way, what's going to happen is you're going to talk to friends and relatives who are going to be jealous of you. And guess what they're going to say? Can't believe you're done. That's too much. The market's going to crash. And reality, and here's what I want you guys to frame it as. Because I've seen it happen over and over. It's a jealousy thing. And what happens is, hey, and here's what you guys use the words. By the way, I want you to be careful about who you talk to. I've been doing this for 19 years, whatever you want to say in your years. And what I found is the minute somebody comes to Myrtle Beach and buys a second home, and they go back and tell their friends, what do you think your friends tell them?
I don't know why you do that.
No, I don't know how you do that. They get so jealous because you got a house in Myrtle Beach and they don't in many cases, and all of a sudden they want to try to neg you out. Why is that? Because people always want to see you do good, just not better than them. And so what I recommend for my clients is I don't tell them anything until they close on it, and then you can share it on Facebook and everybody can be super happy about it. But what I know is advice is worth what you pay for it. And so I've been doing this a long time. Just tell a third-party story. It reminds me of other clients I had. They had dreamed to live in Myrtle Beach and have a second home here for years. Go back and talk to their in-laws who actually ended up being very evil people who were jealous of them, and they talked them out of it. Then the market went up and they got priced out of the market. They've still been looking 2 years later, and they're so regretful they missed out on that perfect opportunity they had on the contract. Whatever it is. You guys with me on this? You share a third-party story, it makes a big difference. But I'm constantly doing what? Transferring certainty, which is what? What's the certainty message here? Right decision.